Okay, so you want to own a fast food franchise. Find a brand, sign the papers, watch the drive-thru fill up. There are over 200,000 fast food locations in the United States. They serve 85 million Americans every single day. It is by volume the most predictable retail business in the country. But here's the strange part. The average franchise owner takes home less than $50,000 a year. And the company that sold you the dream, the one whose name is on the sign, whose recipe book you follow, whose marketing you pay for, that company makes more money when you fail than when you succeed. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how that works, where the money actually goes, and why the most successful fast food franchise on earth is not a restaurant business at all. Let's start with what it costs. A McDonald's franchise will run you between $1.3 and $2.5 million to open. That covers the franchise fee, the equipment, the build-out, the signage, and the initial inventory. Subway is cheaper, $150,000 to $350,000. Chick-fil-A is by far the cheapest to open, just $10,000. But that low number comes with a catch we'll get to in a moment. The franchise fee is just the entry ticket. It gets you the right to use the name, the wines, the recipes, and the supply chain. What it doesn't get you is the land. In most cases, you don't own the building your franchise sits in. The franchisor does. You lease it from them, and that lease is where the first trap is set. A typical franchise lease runs 20 years with automatic rent escalators built in, meaning your rent goes up whether your sales do or not. The rent is calculated as a percentage of revenue, usually between 8 and 12%. That comes off the top, before any other expense. So before you sell a single burger, 8 to 12 cents of every dollar already belongs to the company that sold you the dream. Then come the royalties. Most franchisors charge between 4 and 8% of gross revenue as a royalty fee. This is not profit. This is revenue. Even if you lose money that month, the royalty is still owed. On top of the royalty, there's the marketing fee, usually 2 to 4% of gross revenue. This goes into a national advertising fund that the franchisor controls. You pay into it. You don't decide how it's spent. Add these together, and you're sending 14 to 24% of every dollar straight back to corporate before you pay for food, labor, or electricity. Now let's talk about what's left. A well-run franchise location might do $2.5 to $3 million in annual revenue. After food costs, typically 28 to 33%, and labor costs, 25 to 30%, and rent and royalties and marketing and insurance and maintenance, the average franchise owner clears between $40,000 and $70,000 a year. That's for a business that cost $1.5 million to open and requires the owner to work 60 to 70 hours a week. The math says you would have made more money working the fry station as an employee than you do owning the fry station as a franchisee. Here's what nobody tells you. McDonald's is not a hamburger business. It is a real estate business. Ray Kroc, the man who turned McDonald's into a global empire, figured this out in 1956. He realized that selling hamburgers was volatile. Margins were thin. Competition was endless. But land in high-traffic intersections in growing suburbs, land always went up. So McDonald's began buying the land under every new location. They would purchase the property, build the restaurant, then lease the whole package to the franchisee. Today, McDonald's owns approximately $45 billion worth of real estate across more than 100 countries. They make more money from rent than they do from selling food. The franchisee pays for the privilege of running the restaurant. They pay for the equipment. They pay for the labor. They take all the operational risk. And at the end of the month, after they've paid their lease, their royalties, their marketing fee, their food costs, and their labor, McDonald's has already collected its rent, win or lose. This is the model. The franchisee is not a business partner. The franchisee is a tenant who also happens to sell hamburgers. Chick-fil-A takes this model even further. To open a Chick-fil-A, you pay just $10,000. That's the lowest franchise fee in the industry by a wide margin. But here's what that $10,000 actually buys you: nothing. You own nothing. Chick-fil-A retains full ownership of the building, the equipment, the inventory, the intellectual property, and even the revenue. You are not a franchise owner. You are an operator. You run the day-to-day operations. You hire and fire. You manage the schedule. You stand in the kitchen. And in exchange, you keep 50% of the pre-tax profit. The other 50% goes to Chick-fil-A corporate, plus an additional 15% of gross revenue as a royalty before profit is even calculated. Chick-fil-A receives over 60,000 applications per year for roughly 100 to 150 new operator positions. The acceptance rate is lower than Harvard's, and the people who get selected are not business owners. They are carefully screened managers who will follow the playbook, work 50-plus hours a week, and never question the split. The company calls them operators. The math calls them something else. The risks are not small. When a franchise location fails, and about 10 to 15% of them do within the first 5 years, the franchisee loses everything: their initial investment, their working capital, often their personal savings, because most franchisees sign personal guarantees on the loans they take to open. The franchisor loses almost nothing. They still collected the franchise fee, the royalties, the marketing contributions, and the rent for every month the store was open. And when the location closes, they simply find a new franchisee to take over the lease. There are class action lawsuits currently working through federal courts alleging that franchisors intentionally oversaturate markets, cannibalizing existing franchisees' sales in exchange for collecting more franchise fees and royalties from new locations. A Subway franchisee in Illinois documented opening a store that competed with another Subway less than half a mile away, both owned by different franchisees, both paying royalties to the same parent company. The incentive structure is not subtle. The franchisor makes money when you open. They make money when you operate. And in some cases, they make more money when you close, and a new person pays the franchise fee all over again. So if you do decide to buy a fast food franchise, understand what you're actually buying. You're not buying a business. You're buying a job. A job with a boss that takes a percentage of your revenue before you earn a dollar, that controls what you sell and how you sell it, that can open a competitor across the street tomorrow, and that owns the land you're standing on. The house always wins. Just make sure you know whose house you're in.